I don't think us women truly realize what men go through, but do men truly realize all the things that women go through? We are constantly objectified, constantly harassed, made to feel uncomfortable, made to feel like it's not safe to go down the street. It might not even be safe to be down a hallway at work because we don't know who we might encounter.
Yeah.
We go through so much hormonal stuff, monthly cycles, whatever. Then pregnancy, add that on top, that takes and ends people's lives. I mean, people have died from this. And yet we're expected to do it all without complaints. Still be there to take care of and cater you when oftentimes we don't have time to take care of and cater of ourselves. You're not doing that either.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. And when you do, this is like this magical thing. Or then like, how can we be there for you? What way can we help you? Like, let's do dishes. Let's make a meal. Don't come home and be like, I worked so hard and what have you done? And like, it should be so easy for you. Like, you do it. Like, us. And we can help you. It is that simple. Like, when we are treated with respect and treated like we are an equal, that we matter, you're like, what can we do for you? Like, what do you need? Can we help you? And we can be that safe place for you. I think everything I've gone through, and other women that have gone through what I've gone through, we don't expect a guy to understand what we've been through. We also can't have a guy dismiss what we've been through and invalidate. It's not that we want them to take on everything we've been through. It's heavy stuff and it's hard stuff. We just need a soft place to land, a soft place to rest. We need someone just to hold us and let us know we're safe. No different than a guy needing a soft place where he can truly show up naked. And I'm not meaning physically naked, but bearing his soul for every flaw, for everything that he wouldn't even want anybody to know. It is such a safe place. We won't look at you differently. You can cry, you can be vulnerable, you can be emotional, and we won't see you as weak. We'll just see you as human. But we can't have that place for you if you don't first create a safe place for us to feel safe enough to have that for you.
Yeah.
Want heaven, you want her to create a heaven for you, first have to create it for her. Women can open up and really truly show up when they feel 100% safe. Not many women feel that way. Not a lot of men, because it's like, oh, okay, now it's feelings, this is strong, this is hard, I can't do this, and then we can't do it. And then you wonder why it's like, we can do this on our own. We don't need you. We've been forced to feel that way. We've been forced to not count on you. We've been forced to, like, we have to do it on our own. Guess what? I didn't have guys helping me in my court case. I had to do it on my own. And the guys that knew about my court case, how many of them offered to pray for me? Didn't. It was, this is a lot. Yes, I know it's a lot. We're just hearing it. I lived and survived it. Don't tell me it's a lot. I get it. You're not even scratching the surface of how hard it's been on me. It's not my job to be the strong person in a relationship. It's not my role. Yet that's exactly the role, and me and so many other women have been forced to be in because men aren't showing up in that role. And so I want to encourage you men, like, change that. And you'll see such a different side to us because we'll be able to be softer and we won't have to be so hard like we have to do it all on our own, because that's what we've had to do, is do it all on our own, and we don't want to. It'd be so nice to have someone do that stuff, to be like, okay, how can I help? Even if it was just organizing the papers I had on the floor for emotion, that would have been so helpful. So helpful.
Someone should have
Maybe
been there
make you
for
something
you.
to eat. Yeah, like it would have been great, but I've to do it on my own. And of course, my ex fiance, it was very much like, you need to make this go away. If you have to sign a settlement agreement, like, I don't want to have to deal with this. And that wasn't the right response, because the settlement
No, he
agreement,
should have been like, okay, where do I fight with you? Like,
right? And
where do
that
I put on
wasn't
my
it at all.
armor? Let's do this. Let's get this bastard.
Right?
Like, oh, sorry for the language, but yeah, no,
No, but exactly. Yeah, to me, it made me feel like I didn't have, not just not a supporter, I didn't have a protector.
yeah,
And I didn't want to be in a relationship where I would have to be that protector, because it's not my role. It's not my role. I don't want to be that person. Here's the thing, when a man is vulnerable and they need protected, they need comforted, we will be that person. We're just not meant to be that person all the time. You can show up being feminine and being that strong person, masculine, when needed. But masculinity is not the role I'm supposed to be fully embracing 100% of the time. Heck, if you're on the floor crying, I will hold you. I will be that person that you need in the time that you need it. Like, we both kind of fill those roles different times. Like, a father, when they see their child crying, oh, what's going on? You're not gonna be like, suck it up. You're gonna be like, comforting. You're gonna be nurturing.
yeah.
That's being in the feminine. That's what they need.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be both. I think we've lived in a society too long where we're like, guys shouldn't be making cookies. Oh my gosh, you're weak. You shouldn't do this. Don't cry. What's wrong with you? No, we can't do that. It's hurting our society. And then guys meet girls who, of course, were emotional. Also, one of the reasons why you love us. And we're emotional, and then it's like, oh my gosh, this is such emotion, I can't deal with it. Like, turn it off. You're too emotional. And it's not that we're too emotional. We're just more emotional than you.
Yeah. It's so I think a large problem has to do, and like this can kind of actually circle back to even like what you do, what Renee does. There's not a lot of I hate to keep using the word education, but that's what it is. There's not a lot of education around just like what we do on a daily basis. There's no education on being a parent. There's no education on having a friendship, nevertheless a relationship. And so like that's why I really enjoyed talking to Renee, because she didn't just focus on finding and putting people together. She focused on building that foundation of a relationship, which nobody knows how to do, because you take that in grade school? I didn't. Like, and it's crazy because we deal with it on a daily basis. And in my situation growing up, I had to grow up by the time I was in third grade, because unfortunately, like I had said, my mother did succeed when I was 21, but the first time she tried it was when I was in third grade. And so my life got completely turned upside down. And to kind of even connect it further to what you said, the smell memory, you were talking about how with PTSD, the simplest thing can click back a memory. And I remember I had a neck injury, and it caused, like, I had nearly photographic memory, to where like I could literally go back 30 minutes, repeat what you said and what I said back to you, or read something 5 times and I could read it back. I couldn't read it backwards, but I could read it back to you. Now
Yeah.
I still have part of that, but it's shrunken a lot, to where I can maybe remember like an interaction. I can remember part of what was said, so it's still kind of there. And like I've been working really hard to try and get it back. But I remember walking down the stairs, and I had to sit down because like I literally just the strongest memory came back of when I was sitting in the emergency room the first time she had tried to commit suicide, and I was sitting there like, what do I do? I don't know. I'm here by myself. No one else wanted to stay the night with her, and they said I can't stay in the room, and so I'm sitting out here by myself because I left to go get food. And I'm like, why is this happening to me? And so like that smell brought back that, but like having to grow up that quick, like it made me realize like, hey, you know, I may have had to grow up really quick from third grade on, but like it taught me so much. And then it made me realize like, hey, hold on. I had happiness as a child at some point. It may not have been too much, but I did have happiness. And so what made me happy when I was a child? And that's what led me down the road to doing my podcast, to getting back into my church. And it's so weird because there's so many things that you've talked about with me that like have just reaffirmed like you're doing the right thing. You've listened to what someone else said and what they've done in it, and they know they were doing the right thing obviously because they persevered, so you're doing the right thing too. And so it's so reassuring to hear it. And it's crazy how the road can lead this way when it came from just an interaction to talking about what my dream was to someone at a bar to now speaking with another very strong woman who I admire you. I really do. And it's not only going to benefit other people. There's been so many little things that got opened up along this conversation that I'm sitting here trying to wrap my head around all the thoughts. Like I've written down so many things, but you said there was I'm just trying to connect to those some of the things you said too, but I know I'm kind of like jumping all over the place. But you had mentioned also about like thinking about when you were a kid and how like you used that instance of when you told him to get out, like that's how you use that, you go back to that to motivate you now. And that's exactly what I did with the okay, what made me happy as a child? Talking to people, learning, and going to church. And those three things I center my life around now. Church at the very pinnacle of it. The podcast is probably after learning, but the podcast also comes with learning because you learn so much from a conversation with people. Because I can't tell you outside of my podcast when I've sat down and had a 3 hour conversation with anybody. I don't think many people can. You know what I mean? Because it's just not the way our society is set up anymore. There's always picking up a phone, or even if you had a family party, oh, I'm gonna go get some food, oh, I'm gonna go grab a drink, oh, I'm gonna go play this, or we're gonna go listen to music, whatever you do, we're gonna go swimming, we're going on the lake, whatever, and so it's these type of conversations. I think I used to hate when people listen to AM radio in the car. I would absolutely hate it, and now it's weird because like the older the older generation, like when I'm around, like I would say people from like the 60s, they hate hearing podcasts. I'm like, did your parents listen to AM radio? Like, yeah, I hated it. I was like, oh, it makes sense. Like this is the same thing, but there's so much to be learned from these long form conversations. And if I didn't start doing this, I never would have met you. I probably wouldn't be as strong as I am in my faith. And so there's so much good that can come out of it. And so thank you for that. Definitely. The whole teaching men to be men thing, that's really what this all spawned from. And so the whole education point behind that, I don't even know how we would obtain that. You know what I mean? Like, I how do you
schools. I think there should be like extra courses like survival skills, communication skills, relationship skills, even as far as going to gaslighting, what is grooming, what is red flags in relationships. Like, I mean,
yes.
if someone the guy is making fun of you and saying different things to you, that could be the start of emotional abuse, which could escalate. I mean, my ex-fiance, I sent him a picture of me that jeans top, and he said, I can't even look at it. You're so fat. It's such a turnoff. And
what?
When he had shared this with other people, which he actually shared it with the founder of this Life Embrace Grace group, she said, oh, well, yeah, I mean, like, boyfriend 101, don't call your girlfriend fat. And I'm like, that's it? That's the response? Like, I mean, just lists, comments, and of course he came back and said, all right, I talked to my coach and she said that probably wasn't a good idea. And I'm like, you think? Like, why would you say something like that? The thing is I'm not fat, and so even if I was, like, you just don't say that. I think it's very easy to overlook red flags when there's then an apology. You think that the apology means they're going to change, but oftentimes there's just multiple apologies and no changed behavior. And so if we could have young kids looking at this and be like, but the pattern is it's not changing, it's just escalating. This isn't a healthy relationship. There probably would be a cut down on promiscuous sex, because someone once said this years ago. Men say I love you to go to bed. Girls go to bed to say I love you. And to prove their worth and to try to keep the relationship. And so young girls probably wouldn't be being promiscuous if they, one, had confidence. So there should definitely be course or class on eating disorders and confidence building so girls aren't struggling with that stuff. So they're not vulnerable, that when a guy that seems nice says the right things, that they don't think, oh my gosh, like he's amazing, when really he's just faking and he's a counterfeit because he wants something from you.
Yes.
He knows what words to say to get it. It would cut down so much heartache, so much mental health, so many struggles if we had life courses. That's what should be called, is life
courses. Yeah, I was sitting there trying to think of a name too. It's so weird. That's the second time that you've said something that I was thinking about. That is super weird. Oh, that's so funny though.
Life courses.
Because I was like societal education. That's wow.
No.
You get out of my head.
It's life courses. It would help them to thrive and succeed in life.
Yes, that is.
How do you balance a checkbook? What does a bank account look like?
What is?
Because a lot of times.
What is indentured servitude through secondary education? You know what I mean? Like
there's so many things that kids don't know how to do, and sometimes these kids still don't know how to do them, and then they become adults
that don't know how to do them.
Yeah, they just are struggling. And then they have kids that then are struggling because they're struggling. But if we nipped it at school and taught them life courses to help them succeed, this would be so different.
Yeah. And so, when it comes down to education, I do feel like there's almost something malicious behind it. It just doesn't make sense to me how every country around us advances. I mean, Mexico City University. I don't know if it still does. It most likely does. Outranked every one of our state colleges. It's like, wait, what?
I know that.
Pennies on the dollar to go there, get a bachelor's, which when you bring it back to the United States equivalates to a master's. It's like, wait, what? So you mean I can pay pennies on the dollars and get a better education in a third world country than I can in the supposed greatest country in the world? It's like, hold on, where's the balance of good and evil here? It doesn't seem like there's, obviously I'm always on the side of good, but it really does seem like the prevalence of evil in the world is just so rampant. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many things that are out to like you said, evil masquerading as good, and the part of the church with you is just so disgusting. Like, it enrages me, and I don't like to feel angry. And I was an angry kid, so like I learned how to feel my emotions because of that. And so like, but it upsets me because it's like, man, you have no idea the damage you're even doing just to yourself, and you're the damage and the damage you could be doing to so many others. And I remember when I went back to church, I told my pastor, I was like, I had to come back to this church. He's like, well, no, you don't need to go to any specific church. And I get what he meant by it, but hearing what you said and what you've went through with all these churches and like just the blatant abuse of them, it makes me so glad that I did return to one that I know was built on a foundation of safeness, and it is a safe place. Because I literally went to that church when I was a kid, and I learned how to swim in the pastor's pool. He unfortunately has passed on. His son, who was running the church too, felt he was called to another calling by God, and so he went and pursued that. But there's still a lot of people who I grew up with who went there, who go there still, and still like it's a safe haven. And I do wholeheartedly feel like there is none of what you've endured at other churches at my church. And I'm glad I didn't choose a couple other churches that are in the area, because mega churches always scare me, always kind of scare me, because and I'm not saying that they're all bad. That's not what I'm saying at all. It just, a mega church equals mega money, and money is the root of all evil. It really is. It's a material item that it's almost, I mean, if I didn't think AI was the mark of the beast, I would call money the mark of the beast. You know what I mean? Because it's like the acceptance of it turns us, it's so easy to turn someone away from God with the acceptance of money. It really is. I mean, the temptation of it is just so unreal, because with money comes power, and it really, the temptation of it is really is unrivaled. And so that's what just always scared me about mega churches. And there is one that, it's a big church, and I know people who go to it, and so I will go to it. I just worry that, I hope that the message is good and clear, and it's of God's word, and not manipulated to, you know, to like the one pastor, he said that it was now polygamous. There was a guy that was interviewed at the DNC, and I'm not trying to bring this to a political thing, but he was talking about how, oh, I'm polygamous, and it's like, well, whatever, do whatever you want. I'm cool with, it may not align with what I would do, and I don't support it, but you don't bother me. I do believe in live and let live. I can't support it, but I do. You don't bother me, so I'm not gonna have any hatred towards you. One of the funniest things is when you see someone holding a sign that says God hates you. It's like, whoa. You realize how big of an oxymoron that is? Like, you can't hold a sign that says God hates you. Like, God has no hate. Not even for, it just isn't there. And
Yeah.
so we definitely need a cleansing of our church again. And it just makes me think of some of the like in the Corinthians, when he's writing to the churches, it just telling them how, if you were to be judged now, you would be spit out, because you're not doing what you should be. You are wishy-washy. You are on one side then another, and a lot of the people you mentioned will be spit out. And I hope that they've come to a point to where they don't get spit to the bowels of hell, because that's not anywhere I'd ever want to be. I never would want to be separated from God, now seeing how
Yeah.
and what he's done with me.
Yeah, and I will say, like, it could be so easy for me or anybody else that has dealt with church hurts, especially with all the churches, as you mentioned, that I've had fortunate church hurt experiences from, just kind of letting that set the standard for, this is what Christianity is, and this is what the body of Christ is. But I had to make a very intentional decision. I wasn't going to judge God based on the body of Christ. And that wasn't always easy. And for a while, I left the church because I didn't feel safe in the church. I never left God. My relationship with God I can totally see why non-Christian people think that unbelievers think that we are the most hypocritical people, because in a way we are. Saying that God is all love, but a lot of times some of the things that we say or how we come across is hate.
Yeah.
And then we do things that we shouldn't do. Like, we're supposed to be against abuse, yet there's abuse happening in the churches. Abuse happening in Catholic Church.
That was egregious. Yeah.
There's just so much of that happening, that it would be so easy to say, I don't want to have anything to do. If this is what Christianity is, I'm out.
Yeah.
I think it's important, and I actually just did this 2-part podcast on Predators from the Pulpit, coming out at the end of August, and I interview a Christian private investigator, and we dive into what needs to happen, because we can change things. No one's going to be perfect. There's still going to be mistakes, but there are errors that are being made that should not be being made. Nobody in a position of power within the church should be abusing anyone. I mean, that's just like no go. Like, you just don't do that. You shouldn't be having affairs with other people in the church. Don't do that. Like, you just shouldn't, like, there's just certain things like that. You shouldn't be taking funds and using them for your own personal gain. You shouldn't be doing that. Like, there's certain things that are just so egregious. You know you shouldn't be doing this. And just to create a safe place, I mean, I've heard this said before, the first place that people that are hurting and sick should be able to go to is the church. It should be acting like a hospital. And I've actually heard other people say, no, it shouldn't. Like, you can't count on the church that way. Like, it's not a hospital. Like, they don't want to deal with people's problems. And I'm like, that's the... I dealt with people's problems. Jesus was dealing with people's problems. Jesus was healing
He sought
people
out
from
people
their
with
problems.
Yeah.
And but also people like the woman who was bleeding. Just touched the hem of his garment. She sought him out. She knew it was safe enough to believe in him enough that she knew just by touching his garment she would be healed. Like, we need that. And when I hear things happening that should not be happening, we then create an even more toxic, unhealthy environment. And I think it's coming out. Like, I knew Robert Morris of Gateway Church wasn't safe. Yeah. And a couple days before it came out that it was true, he did not have an affair with an adult, but instead he sexually abused a 12-year-old. Clearly he came to mind a couple days before that broke. I remember thinking, God, like, when are things going to be exposed that people don't know about? When, like, are you going to do that? And then that happened. And I'm like, oh, you're uprooting. He is literally going into the foundations and uprooting it and being like, it's exposed. It's exposed. Now let's look and see where the pieces fall. And so when you then see people at this point with the Gateway, where there was people coming forward saying, oh my gosh, like, I'm an elder and this isn't okay. And then you see people who don't say anything, who are still supporting Robert Morris, like the founders of Embrace Grace, who have a family member of his on staff, have not once spoken up against him, who then know exactly where people stand. And I think God wants that to be seen, because here's the thing. Robert Morris was a spiritual person, one of them Trump turned to. Probably, if he wins this election, probably should find somebody different. When Trump had everybody coming and speaking and talking and had different people talking on different issues, the founder of Embrace Grace was one of those pro-life leaders he had speak. The Sea of Life events for Focus on the Family recently also had this Embrace Grace founder speak. I think what God's doing right now is he's really uprooting a lot of things, and he's also not just one person, like I'm using Robert Morris as an example, but there's so many pastors in his position this has happened to. Ravi Zacharias was another one. Didn't come out until he died. Massage parlors, all the abuse, all the women he harmed, didn't come out. Board covered it. It's also rooting all of their connections, who else they're interconnected with. And when you start to look at that, you start to see who supports who. I mean, Mark Driscoll, he left one church. He did things he never should have done at that church. I mean, there are so many church hurts, so many people he abused and mistreated. Then starts a new church in Arizona. Guess who's serving on the board? Robert Morris. after everybody knew what he did in Seattle. This should be saying something, and we should no longer be looking at people and saying, well, look, we have the presence. This is how many followers they have. Clearly, they can be trusted. No, I'm sorry. How many followers someone has does not mean they can be trusted. Let's look at their character. Let's look at who they support.
Yeah.
Let's look at what they're doing. Jesus had 12 followers. That should tell us something. If someone's money hungry and hungry for fame and they have all these followers, that should tell us something about what they're really after. It's not about God. No. It's about self. And anytime there's ever been a guy that I've either interviewed on my podcast, or if I was thinking about entertaining, okay, they've showed interest, maybe I'll see if this is something I'd want to dive into relationship-wise. I always will look at who they follow. When I see guys following girls that hardly have any clothes on and they're liking all their posts, it lets me know they're not the guy I want. Or if they're following different links of like even who they like. If I see that it's all these mega churches of people where there's been scandals and controversies of things that they've done, and those are all the pastors they like. Ooh. Are you reading the news? Do you not care about the news? It's like, This is now just not one pastor. This is multiple pastors, and we're all for them. Are you okay with abuse then? Like, it really makes me really think through things. Like, what is this saying about you? Are you a supporter of abusers?
Yeah.
There's only one or two sides you can take. There's no middle ground when it comes to abuse.
There's no middle ground in anything. You have to make a choice. Right. God says make the choice.
Right. So evil or good. So are you going to support abusers? Evil. Are you going to stand the truth and the victims? You're struggling and you're straddling. You're a lukewarm Christian and I don't want to deal with that. If you're supporting, I get it can be tough because sometimes these mega people are their friends, supporters that have supported their ministry. But when you take their side, you're not taking the side of the victim. No, you're the side of the abuser, and you've made a choice. When you stay silent, you've made a choice.
Yep. If you see another sinning and if you see another sin and you don't either pray, well, what is it? I think it says, if you see someone sinning, pray for them. But if you see someone, unless it is a sin of death or a sin that causes death, which the only sin that causes death is blasphemy, and so you should always pray for them. But you also should, if you don't help them to see their sin, it's as if you committed that sin too. I think that's another verse that they're not in the same area at all, but I think those are two verses that do, or two paraphrases of verses that speak to the situation, because you're not, a lot of people are like, oh, well, I it's not my place to come out. If you're a Christian, it's your place to speak out on evil. It's your place to praise God above all, which means anything unholy or anything he would be ashamed of. It is your responsibility to identify and then help put a stop to it. I think, at least, I'm pretty sure that aligns with Christian values, if I'm not mistaken, but I know that aligns with my values with God, that if I see something happening, I can't just allow it to happen. You need to do something.
Yeah, there needs to be that accountability. Even with the people right now, my former boss with CityFam, that is very much promoting marriage as polygamy. Just married his first. All these Christians at his wedding, praying with him marrying his first wife. And then he, at one point, said, I'm not going to be talking about polygamy right now because we're about to get married and I don't want to disrespect her. So is it okay to talk about polygamy after you get married? Because is that going to be less disrespectful? I would think it's still disrespectful.
I think it's more.
The fact that you're basically right. Oh yeah, 100%. Because you're basically saying, I already know you're not going to be enough before we get married. And now, after we're married, we've consummated everything. You're definitely not enough. And so I think we should think about more wives because you'll never be enough.
Yeah. And there's a triple braided bond between a marriage and God. If you are to try and add a fourth, that would mean you would have to break that bond. You know what I mean? Because they say during marriage, one of the marital parts is, a double braided cord or double braided rope is strong, but a triple braided one is unbreakable. And so if somehow you manage to unbreak that and try to add the fourth in, you're not going to be able to put it together. It just doesn't work. And so it's any true Christian could see right through any elevation of thought of polygamy, because they're like you said, he made Eve. The reason why we have wives, not only to procreate for all the devil's advocate people out there, it is to complete each other. A woman is a part of man. God took the rib from man and made woman, and so we are separated in order to find ourselves together, to complete ourselves. Like you said, we're parts of each other. There's parts that one may lack and one may be good at, and then there's gonna be parts where we both lack at, but that's where God comes in. That's that third braid that helps you elevate to that. And so remembering that is essential. And I just don't understand how you could think that trying to promote polygamy as a Christian is anywhere within the speakings of the good book. So it's
right. And the woman, I liked what you said about because she is the missing rib of the man. And I think with the recent biblical marriages, polygamy, what they're trying to, again, twisting scripture of saying, well, look, David had all these concubines, so since he had all these wives, clearly this is what God wants. Okay, stop there and think about this for a second. There are people in the Bible who slept with their dad, who slept with their father-in-law. We're not supposed to be doing that now, so clearly, no. Just because it's in the Bible of something that it happens, also we're sacrificing children. We're not supposed to be doing that now.
Yeah.
I mean, just because it's in the Bible what they did then doesn't mean we're doing it now. And so I think just a way for them to justify their sin or their beliefs or whatever. And I mean, my former boss at one point was making a comment of, for wives, the more a man can accomplish. I mean, like, if this wife's working, then there's more income, and then, of course, there's more kids, and it's like...
Has that guy been married?
He just got married. He just got married for the first time. He's in his 50s. He's from another country. And nobody of her support there when she got married in the U.S. So it's very much a thing of just like women are just made to help men accomplish things. That's basically all we're good for, right? Is that? No, not at all. Say it, but if Eve didn't exist, there wouldn't have been generations birthed. Of course, men have a very pivotal role. I mean, we need your sperm. But what sustains the baby, the growth of the baby, everything, I mean, that's all a woman. I mean, the guy doesn't have to give up drinking. He doesn't have to give up eating certain foods. The woman does.
Yeah.
I mean, and so if we think about, I saw a meme where someone said, "What did you do today?" And the woman said, "Well, I grew ears, grew a nose. I didn't just sit around do nothing. My body was actually creating life, another human being.
Yeah.
And that's so true. Like, that is a lot. And it's incredible that women's bodies can do that. This is just crazy to think that. I mean, trying to give an excuse that forced monogamy is bad. First of all, it shouldn't be forced.
Yeah, no.
Monogamy is what God has designed relationships and marriage for. Promoting it as it's being forced. The only way to fix that is to have plural marriages. No, that's just basically giving yourself permission to have orgies and to have multiple affairs.
Yeah, no.
And to create jealousy among wives.
Yeah, right.
Which isn't
It's just
right. And when you're at
such a problem.
When you're at a thing together, you're out and about with your family, who's holding the husband's hand? Who does the husband sit next to?
Right.
I mean, like, you now no longer have a husband to yourself.
No. And, what it sounds like, I didn't want to believe this when I first heard it, but, like, the more I keep kind of pulling back a little bit of the veil, I feel like it is popping more through. And, like, whatever, I don't judge another's religion, but, like, Sharia law, that's what it makes me think it's encroaching upon. Like, the multiple wives, the women are an object, they don't have rights. Like, that's kind of, I don't know too much about Sharia law, but to me, that's like what I think of when I think of Sharia law. And hearing a Christian pastor preach about polygamy, to me, is more of a turn towards that than Christianity. And like I said, I'm not taking any stabs at any other religions. That's not what I'm doing. I'm taking a stab at the way women are treated and looked at, and the way that I believe that the Christian faith should treat women, and the way that not even just Christian faith, the way that women should be treated, but of the highest utmost, especially by a Christian standard and by Christians, they should be treated. So,
and it's also like spreading of disease. I mean, there's so many things that this is crossing those lines of. In Song of Solomon, it talks so much about being fully satisfied with the body of your wife, and I think it compares her breasts to twin doves or something like that. Not multiple wives' bodies, but one wife.
One wife.
And I mean, my heart goes out to this wife of his who looks really young. I mean, he's in his 50s. And she's a foreigner from a different country. And he's basically spreading a message. Just got married. They're on her honeymoon now of just, they're not enough. Never be enough.
Yeah. It has to be so degrading to her. I wonder if she even completely...
So degrading.
Like, can, like, understand what kind of she's in, I wonder if the foreigner part kind of makes it more forced. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if she fully grasped the understanding of what she agreed to. Because there's a lot of things lost in translation of language, and I'm not saying she's not smart or anything like that. That's not what I'm getting towards.
Right.
I'm just saying that I wonder if she fully can grasp what it means, what he wants,
Yeah, and I also wondered if it was also a thing of, so many people want to come to this country.
Yeah.
It's kind of a green card thing. Like, well, I could get married and then I can't be deported. So I would have to be in this country. But if we count the cost, like, is that worth it? I mean,
no.
Relationships are hard enough. I can't even imagine, as a guy who has to be in love with multiple women, who he's going to refer to as his wives, if he's struggling to be emotionally intimate with one,
yeah,
how in the world is he going to be even able to any type of emotional connection? The other ones, I would think it would just kind of be more of a thing of, all right, you're here. This is a body. I'm going to treat it like visual, meaningless sex,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Like a piece of property. That's just not right.
Yeah. No, it's so against God. And of course, there has been people that have spoken up that came from a background, were raised in it, and all the negative abuse type things that took place there, and how women were used and abused, and just plus not only that, it's against the law. It's against the law. I mean, it is not legal in this country. Which is shocking.
Is it Utah?
Many...
I think Utah might be. Because is Utah the Mormon one?
Yeah, but I thought...
Maybe it did get outlawed still. I thought maybe there was one still.
I'll look it up. I know that's usually where they go.
Wow, look at that. There was the first search thing. I said, is there a state that allows? And polygamy was the first one. No, polygamy is legal in all 50 states, as well as District of Columbia, Guam, and Puerto Rico. Yeah, okay. So
what's interesting is with it being so illegal, and yet there's TV shows on polygamous families.
Yeah.
If our government knows these shows exist and knows what location they're in, why are they not being held accountable, imprisoned, breaking the law?
Yeah, I think what they end up using is religious.
For jaywalking in some states.
Right. I mean, you could be. There's still active law in Illinois. If you say Joliet incorrectly, you can be imprisoned for it because it was a famous explorer.
Are you serious?
Yeah. There's a lot of there's a lot of old dead laws like that to where, you know, they were used for like gerrymandering or like you know, swaying elections and stuff where they could arrest people for, you know, a day or for something stupid. They would do it a lot back in the day to kind of to sway elections or votes or bills or laws and things. So, but yeah, no, that Joliet one's really weird.
It's interesting, but it just, that to me doesn't, that I don't get about our system, where you can have someone spend a lot of time in jail selling drugs. Okay, mind you, I'm not saying go sell drugs. No, you shouldn't. Selling drugs. You can have someone rape women and they get to walk free.
Yeah.
A rapist is still walking free. And here's the thing, only 2% of rapists are charged. So there's 98% of rapists in the United States that are walking free. They have not been charged. They've not been inside of a courtroom. Like, what are we doing with that 98%? And why does drugs have more value and worth than a woman? Human being.
That's super messed up.
Completely messed up. Again, I'm not advocating for people to be selling drugs. Don't do drugs. Don't sell drugs.
Yeah.
But it's really the priorities of what has value is messed up.
It is. There's a big disparity in that. I can't believe it's only 2%. That is just...
Percent.
That's so disgusting. There's so many things in this country that are so backwards like that. It just doesn't make sense. It's like, how can you be the greatest country and have the biggest rate of pedophilia? How can you be the greatest country and only prosecute 2% of your rapists? Like, how?
Oh, I
those
think
two
it's
things
because of
don't
opportunity. No, but it's opportunity. We
Yeah.
have so many opportunities in this country. We also have a lot of opportunities for people to get away with things they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, a lot of loopholes. Yeah. And just it's the way we're structured. It's the lack of value of human life. That's really what it
I mean, think about like schools and school shootings.
Yeah.
How many times has there been a story where there was somebody that ended up shooting up the school? There was plenty of warnings, whether it was the school counselor, whether it was teachers seeing things that they were drawing or writing, whether there was social media posts about how they wanted to do people harm, they were ignored. And people get harmed and hurt. It's like, oh yeah, there was that warning. We should have paid more attention. And it's like, but when are we going to learn? How often, like, this happens? Even something as simple as kids. Parents always think it's fine. You can just walk down the street. Nothing will happen. It won't happen in this neighborhood. It won't happen at this church. It won't happen in this Cub Scouts. You're fine. Like, and then it happens, and it's like, oh my gosh, it happens.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe that happened. And it's like, you can't believe it. We don't live in a safe country. We don't. This happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I've even seen. There's been so many stories of things happening to kids in a restroom. Whether it was the mom, recent, I saw on Facebook a couple months ago. Mom had 2 kids. Went to go get the car worked on. One child ran into the restroom. Get into the restroom. There was another guy in the restroom. And the son came out crying, upset. And there was a police chase because they let him leave the car place, pulled over, but he harmed the child.
That is so messed up.
And a year ago, similar situation, mom and dad with son and daughter at McDonald's. Mom was sitting, dad took the son to the bathroom. He took the little girl. He was in the stall with the son helping him. The girl was out by sinks. Creepy, monster, evil guy came in, took her in a stall, raped her. In the stall right next to her dad. Kids aren't safe.
That is so disgusting.
We think that they are, and worse, people that are usually harming the kids are the people that the adults think are safe.
Are protected.
Whether it's an uncle, whether it's a grandpa, whether it's a family friend. Scout leader. Or not. No one's having conversations with kids on who is safe. Who gets to see you? Who gets to touch you? Because people are too afraid. Well, I don't want to put fear in their life. Well,
you need to, unfortunately, because
do
the world is
so
a dangerous
that they're
place.
Prepared, not to scare them, but to make them aware of who isn't safe and who is. When I was in elementary school, I had close friends of the family. My mom said to me, I have a code word. Even if these friends come and pick you up from school, or come and pick you up on the side of the road when you're walking, if they don't have the code name, run to another house.
Yeah.
You can't run back to our house. And of course, I said, why wouldn't they be safe? Like, we love them. Like, my mom said, no, I know. I'm just saying, if anybody, and if grandma and grandpa show up, pick you up, they don't know this code word, you don't go home with them. It didn't scare me. It gave me pause, and I knew, okay, even if I trust them, even if I love them, they don't know this code word. Mom and dad didn't send them.
Yeah.
In that moment, they wouldn't be safe. I've remembered that all of my life now. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, like, that's inspiration. I mean, you do that. You have conversations like that. And seen parents and stuff have conversations where they're like, if someone comes up and offers you an ice cream cone, are you going to go with them? And they're like, oh my gosh, I would love ice cream. And it's like, no, you don't go with them.
Yeah, no. Someone's
Yeah,
offering you
I won't
something
give
to
you
come with them. That's a telltale sign you shouldn't
don't.
go with them. Yeah.
And especially with trafficking on the rise, no idea who they might be. And especially when there's predators who are on gaming systems pretending to be young kids, thinking, yeah, young kids, thinking that they truly are friends. It's okay if I tell them my name, I tell them my grade, I tell them where I live, what school I go to. Well, person for other side of the dark web is listening in, who knows their voice, who knows this, who's seen pictures. They know exactly who to look for.
Yeah.
They can go to that school, they can park, they can watch. The thing is that no one will know where they are. And that's one of the scariest, I think, biggest things that parents need to understand. Our system is not set up to protect kids. It's gotten better, but it's not set up. Because you really can't, I mean, you can call the police. They're not going to do anything for 48 hours.
Yeah.
Though it's been proven
48 hours
something's
is
gonna
essential
happen.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. You can get so far in 48 hours.
Yeah.
Completely be off the radar. And, I mean, John Walsh has done a lot of great work with Christmas Wanted and Missing Children. Unfortunately, it came from his own child being kidnapped, murdered. He's left in, you know, his wife let their son wander in the mall. They got separated. That's how that happened. There's still so much more that needs to be done. And I see so much of people posting pictures all over social media of their family, of their everything. I think people forget is the internet is like kind of like a footprint, like a map. My ex actually told me this. My ex-fiance had said, we were talking about locations, where we were going to go to eat dinner, blah, 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 and all this. And you basically just gave me 2 locations. All I need is a third, and I know exactly where you are. I thought, oh my God, that's scary. A lot of parents, and especially kids, don't realize anytime something hits the internet, it's like a dot on the map, giving them a blueprint of what all they do. Whether you're saying you play this game, or whether you say you go to this school, whether you say that you're in this neighborhood, or this is where you go to the pool, all those different things. And then when you give specifics, I'm in this grade, I go by this nickname. Wouldn't take a hacker long to be able to put the pieces of the puzzle together to know exactly who you are and where to find you.
Exactly.
That's just the day and age that we live in.
Yeah.
So it is so important to not do that. And it's also one of the reasons why there's so much I don't share. I never share when I'm traveling.
Yeah, no.
Never. If I post a picture, I'll post it after and you know where. Like if I'm at the beach, you'll see the ocean. You won't know what ocean.
Yeah.
You'll see an ocean long after I'm home and I'm safe. Like there's just certain things like that that I just don't share. Because if you're posting everything and you're posting every November, we go to Cabo. It's like every November they're going to Cabo in this vicinity. This is what they all look like. It's so easy to find someone. Like you're basically letting someone know by what's out there exactly where you go, where you move, which is why they always say, like, when you are traveling or whatnot, have timers on in your house, have lights pop on so people don't know you're out of town. But also, don't always go home the same way, especially for those that are single. Don't always go home the same way, and always be aware of your surroundings. see a car that's falling too close and has been behind you before, and I've had to do this. See a car, take note of that car. I have my phone close by in case I have to call 911. I'm automatically thinking, if I have to pull over somewhere lit or public, where would that be? Especially if I'm driving at night. And I will even take detours to see if they follow me.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have.
Turn.
Take an odd turn. See, like, I know it's a turnaround, but do they know it's a turnaround?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, I know it's a dead end. Do they know it's a dead end? Because if I'm turning around in a dead end and they're following me, we're going to have issues.
Yep.
So that's really important, is to be aware, because it's usually when you're not aware and you're not paying attention that something happens.
100%.
You're looking down at your phone while you're walking, not paying attention if someone's coming up behind you. Just being aware of things can save your life. I think it's also like knowing where emergencies are, having emergency numbers, knowing where to go. Like, if you're traveling, you know where the hospital is, you know where the poison control place is. Like, you know these things.
Yeah.
You're not, like, you know the lay of the land if you need help. You know how close the police are. Where's the police department?
Right. Yeah, situational awareness is really lost on this generation, I think.
100%. Everybody thinks they're invincible.